Hello, everyone. This is your host, Susan Rosen, and my guest today is Nina Manolson. I think I got it right. Did I get it right?
Totally.
Okay,
You did.
good. All right. And Nina is a body peace coach, which is really interesting. And I'm going to hand it over to her to introduce herself and tell us a little more about that.
Yeah. So, the often the most curious thing people say after I say I'm a body peace coach, they're curious about like, well, what the heck is that? So a body peace coach is basically someone who helps women feel at home in their body, feel at peace in their body, because unfortunately, most of us know what body war is, right? That feeling of struggling with your food, with how you look in the mirror. It's that feeling like, I can't do it right. Or I wish I hadn't eaten that. Or if I could only just lose those 10, 20, 50, whatever pounds. That struggle is the war that so many of us have experienced, women and men. And so in both my personal evolution, because I was like the queen of body war, so my work is really comes out of my own evolution of healing my relationship with my food and body, and my professional journey of becoming a therapist, really diving deep into the psychology of eating, body trust work, intuitive eating work. Out of that grew this body of work that I've created, which is body peace. And what it fundamentally is how do we create a relationship with our body that feels sustainable for the long haul? Because so many of us have done the like, I got it. I got the new program. This is it. I am so gung ho. I am excited. It is working awesome. Aren't I great? Let me post my before and after pictures. This is how I'm going to be forevermore. And we show all our friends, and they're like, how did we do it? And then a year later, 2 years later, the statistics say 95% of people gain their weight back, if not more, from 2 to 5 years, right? So somewhere in there, the whole thing unravels. So we all know what that temporary, what I call body management system is. So what I'm interested in doing is not having a temporary body management system that breaks down. I'm interested in having a relationship with our body that goes the duration, that can actually stand the test of time, because we know as we age, our body changes in all sorts of ways that are really sometimes a little surprising. You're like, wait, what? Wait, what happened there?
I know.
Right. And so when we have a relationship with our body that feels supportive, that feels respectful, that feels responsive, that feels truly nourishing, we can move through the cycles of our life without being like, okay, I'm going to go back to, I don't know, keto. I'm going to go back to Weight Watchers for the 100th millionth time. I'm going to go back to Noom for the 50th time. No, those don't work. We know, we've all done them. So how do we create a different way? Is we create a different relationship with our body, and that's body peace.
Oh my goodness. Okay. That's wonderful. No, and I'm while I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about, my own journey decades ago. You know, having been a fat little kid and a fat teenager and a fat 20-year-old,
Right. And Susan, what you're talking about is so important, which is that those childhood experiences and how often we were stigmatized and put on diets and told that we weren't okay, that experience with our body impacts how we are in relationship with our body now. And we deserve to shift that. Just like if we've had trauma in our childhood, by now, if you're somebody who's worked on yourself, you've maybe been to therapy, you've maybe done a workshop, you've read a book, you're like, okay, how do I unpack this trauma? Whether it was sexual trauma, violence, relationship trauma, you're like, you know what, let me unpack this and do some healing. The same principles apply to how we were treated in our body. And it might not have been, oh, I was a fat kid and everybody called me fat and I wasn't picked on the team. And, for me, it was I couldn't get up the ridiculous rope you were supposed to climb in gym class, right? Whatever that memory is in your head,
Mm-hmm.
or whether it wasn't even, I wasn't a fat kid, but somehow in teenage life, all the girls were on a diet and talking about what diet. And so then I started going on diets, and then suddenly my body wasn't okay. We
Yeah.
need to do that work. We need to do that
Mm-hmm.
unpacking of what I call our body story in
Mm-hmm.
order to create a new narrative. Because
Mm-hmm.
otherwise, and I've worked with women in their 60s, 70s, 80s who have said, I don't want to die hating my body. And when I say,
Mm.
when did you start hating your body? Oh, I was 10. Oh, I was 13. Oh, I was in college,
Yeah.
right?
Or
I
I
learned.
always did. I didn't know I wasn't
I
supposed to. I started out life that way, right?
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
exactly. I didn't know I wasn't supposed to hate my body. I
Yeah.
didn't know that that wasn't supposed to be a narrative all the time, that my body wasn't okay and that it was supposed to be fixed, that my body was broken and that I needed to be fixed. Ouch, ouch, ouch,
Yeah.
ouch. That is painful. And the truth is that we were not born this way. We were born in a body that we can trust. We were
Mm.
born in a body that told us exactly, I'm hungry, I'm full, my diaper's wet, I need changing, right? I am tired.
Yeah.
We knew those cues and we knew how to holler for
Yeah.
them to be
Yeah. Huh.
addressed. And then, quite early on, for many of us, we
Mm-hmm.
lost those cues along the way. And so, part of this journey of having a relationship with our body that truly feels solid, that feels like we're allies with each other, me and my body,
Mm.
we're on the same team, we're not adversaries, like I need to control her, right? One of the big things that we want to be doing is learning how to re-listen, re-honor, be considerate in the way that we did so naturally as babies.
Okay. It's funny, like with everything, right? It's like there's certain parts of that whole thing that really resonate with me, and other ones are like, yeah, I could see where that could be, but it wasn't how I felt,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because we all
Totally.
have different shades of gray in the whole
We
thing.
all have our own
Yeah,
body story,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And that is really important. What is your body story? Some people are like, you know what? I don't know. I like, childhood was fine. And then I had kids. And then all bets were off. Right. Some people were like, you know
Interesting.
what? I always felt like I knew exactly what to eat. I could trust myself. And then, I don't know. I don't even know what to eat anymore. I'm lost. I've been on so many diets. I don't even
Mm-hmm.
know. Right. Everybody has their journey. And it's
Yeah,
important for us to honor that. Where
yeah.
did we come from in terms of this relationship? And I really want to emphasize, this is a relationship, and it's the most important relationship of our life, because it's the longest relationship of our life. We're born into this body and we will die in this body. And this
Yeah.
body, the relationship we have with this body, impacts every other relationship in our life. Right. When I talk
Mm-hmm.
to women and I
Yeah.
say, so, what do you notice when you're feeling really good in your body? When you're feeling kind of all that, you're feeling like,
Mm-hmm.
strong, and you feel, sensual, and you feel embodied. What happens
Yeah.
in your life? And women say, I feel very outgoing. I ask for the raise. I get the promotion. I put myself out there in love. My sex life gets better. My friends, like, the feels like deeper conversations. I am more visible in life. And I ask,
Mm-hmm.
well, what happens when you're feeling shame around what you ate,
Yeah.
or shame around your body, or you're choosing clothes that you feel like you need to hide your body? Oh, I withdraw. My
Mm-hmm.
mood goes down. I feel less than. I compare myself to other women. And that's painful. And so when we actually do the work of healing our relationship with our food and body, it impacts all the relationships in our life and who we are. We get to be more ourselves, more who we're meant to be in the world.
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think the other thing too is that we don't, and I think you kind of said this in the conversation, but we stop looking to other people for the validation.
Yes. Oh, it's such a tender subject, right? That like, am I okay? How do these jeans look? How does this thing look? Right? Like, is this, am I okay? Right? And
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
there's in that comparison, like, am I fatter than her walking down the street? Do I look like, how am I? Tell me
Yep.
I'm okay. And there's a very important aspect of that idea of external validation, especially when we look at the aging process. So in archetypal psychology, there's this idea that we move from sort of this princess stage to queen to crone, right? And that princess stage is, what do you think of me? Am I okay? Tell me I'm good, right? I see myself through your eyes. When we get to queen in our 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and crone, 70s, 80s, 90s, I don't care what you think of me. I know who I
Exactly.
am. I know who I
Yeah.
am. I know my value. I know my worth. And many of the women that I talk to, I tend to work with women who are in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. Many of the women say, you know what? I feel so confident in so many aspects of my life, basically saying I feel like the queen in many aspects of my life, except in my body and with food. I still feel like I'm looking for that right size. If I could just fit into that dress, if I could just lose that amount of weight, if I could just look that way in the picture for the wedding in August, right? It's always that, like, if I could, and wanting to be seen a certain way. And we need to catch our relationship up with our body to the rest of our sense of competence and aging and wisdom.
Yeah. No, and you're right. And the thing actually that just kind of came to mind is that over the last, what, probably 10 years, 12 or 15 years, there are so many men now who are acting the same way that the women are, as far
Yes,
as their
so
bodies
true.
go. Yeah, I mean,
So
it's just
true.
like, whoa.
Yeah.
Isn't it? It's bad enough
Historically,
we
right.
do it.
Yeah, historically, men have been allowed to age, right? You see that in the movies, in our media. Men
Yeah.
have been allowed to age, and now not so much, right?
Yeah.
All of that, fat phobic size, ism and
Yeah.
ageism is showing up for men too, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Kind of sad. Sad
Yeah.
world we have.
Yeah. Yeah. It really is. It really is, because you would hope that the women would have become a little more like the men were, instead of the men becoming more like the women.
Well, and
But
it's starting to happen though for younger women,
Mhm.
because for younger women, they're getting early on, they're getting messages of body positivity. They're getting Lizzo talking about body neutrality. They're getting ads for bathing suits that include women in larger bodies. They are actually starting to get the messages that we
That's
never
good.
ever got, because all we
Wow,
got
that's
was,
great.
17 magazine, and this is the size you're
Oh,
supposed to
yes.
be. And if you're not, sorry, you're out of luck. And there's no love for you, and there's no success for you, and there's no, all the good things, you don't get them because you don't have the right body.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Not fair.
I agree. I agree. Well, I'm glad things are changing, because
Yeah.
it's you know, I was going to say, because I'm not going to be taking advantage of it, but that's not exactly what I mean. What I mean is that I don't need that
Mhm.
anymore. I'm glad that they're not going to need it either.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
that's
Yeah. And my
that's
hope
huge.
is My hope is that that does change the culture. However, on the flip side of that, you have Instagram influencers and you have fitness gurus and you have all these people who are
Oh my God.
glorifying ultra
Yes.
thinness, right?
Again.
And they're photoshopped. So there's mixed messages, right? Sometimes I mostly work with women who are over 40, but sometimes a younger woman will come and the first thing we talk about is let's change what's coming at you in terms of social media, right? And that it applies as well to older women and men, is what are you
Uh-huh.
seeing in terms of the media? Because at this point, we can actually now control that. If you're on Instagram, if you're on Facebook, you can, delete and block certain ads. And the more you do that, the more you get images that are a representation of age, of diversity of size, of diversity of human.
Mm-hmm. 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 And success being a part of that.
Yes. Yeah. Although one of the things I'm seeing a lot of diversity of size of younger women, but you
Uh-huh.
start getting into social media of older people, no size diversity there. You're still supposed to be, if you're a silver-haired woman, you're supposed to still be thin. Then suddenly we've made aging palatable to the masses. I'm like, no. So there's a long way to go. There's a long way to go in terms of representing people of all ages, of all sizes, of all colors, of all shapes, of all, actually
Yeah.
humanity.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the other side of it too is that um, it's a matter really more of, are you healthy? Some people are healthy when they're like this, they're little tiny skinny people, and some people
Yeah,
are healthy when they're a larger size.
absolutely.
Maybe not really huge. Or I may be prejudiced on that. I just, having been involved in health and all of that, I'm not sure how healthy that
Well, it's
is.
an interesting, the
But
whole conversation of health is a really interesting one, right? Because who's defining health, right?
right.
So first of all, it's one of the things I imagine you talk to people about and I talk to people about is like, what is your version of health? Right? Is it
Right.
mobility? Is it flexibility? Is it strength? Is it, lung capacity, right? For each of us, a different place. Sometimes health is making it through cancer, right? Like we have
Right.
different
Right. Yeah.
definitions of health all
That's
along
right.
the way. So first, let's get clear on what exactly health means, because our society does this thing of like, thin is healthy. And then you get the gold
Yeah.
star. I'm like, whose
Yeah.
version of healthy? So, and
Yeah.
then what you're
Agreed.
speaking to, Susan, is so important, which is this idea of health at every size. And there's literally a book called Health at Every Size and a whole
Oh,
movement
really?
called Health at Every Size. Yeah.
Oh,
And the
interesting.
idea,
Okay.
exactly what you're saying, which is you can be healthy in a small body and you can also be unhealthy at a small body, depending on what your definition of health and well-being is. You can be unhealthy in a large body and you can be healthy, unhealthy. You can have mobility. You may have a heart issue. You may not have a heart issue. You may have stable blood sugar in a very large body and low blood pressure in a very large body. Your mobility may be a little compromised. Like whose definition, right? Whose
Yeah.
definition? For me, for a long time, my idea of health was, because I'm a swimmer, was lung capacity. How far could I swim? How strong? And then my knees started to do weird things. I was like, I think I'm going to redefine healthy for a minute here. Because now health is joint mobility and joint well being, right?
Okay.
So let's get clear. What are we actually working with in our body instead of this idea like, I'm going to be healthy. And if I go on this diet,
Yeah.
here's the promise of health, because that's what our culture says, right? Lose 7 pounds in 7 days equals you will be healthy. And that is just not the truth. It's just not. We're way more nuanced than that.
Yeah.
And we want to be, because it's bio individuality. What's happening in this body, what's happening
Yeah.
in this amazing human being, and what do you need? What does this incredible miracle of a body need for support at this age and stage? Right? If you talk to
Mhm.
my mom, who's 91, and ask her her version of health, it's going to definitely be different than mine. Right? And if you ask her, what does she do to support her health? It's different than mine. But for her, that's the stage she's in.
Yeah.
So to really honor, where are we? What is our relationship with our body? How do we want to support that relationship? And what is our idea of well-being? And to get specific and not buy that weight loss and thinness equals well-being. It's just not the truth.
No, that's very true. That's very true. Um, and it is always what kind of comes to mind is which I don't think it's quite as common now as it was maybe like 30 years ago or so, but it's of that and I think now men and women do it, probably still do to it, is they look at themselves in the mirror and they go, "Oh, I'm fat."
Mm-hmm.
And then they get
Mm-hmm.
super, super, super skinny, which is not
Mm-hmm.
healthy.
No.
And they're like, "Oh yeah, yeah, now I'm healthy. Now I'm healthy. Oh, look at me, look at me." And you know, and it's like we've never quite been able to get over that hump of people going that way, super, but then again, there are just as many people, I guess, who exercise to an excess.
Yeah. So it's interesting, right? That idea of like, I'm going to take control. I call that body management. I'm going to take
Yeah.
control. I'm going to get myself in shape. I'm going to pull myself up by my bootstraps. I'm going to get going with this. It's a bit aggressive. And honestly, if you were in a relationship with somebody else and they were like, okay, let's get serious. This is the way, you'd be like, no, no, you can't be yelling at me like this. You can't be being pushy like this. I'm not doing it. And that's why they fail. That's why all eventually those things don't work, because it puts us into the restrictive, bossy body management. And then we're going to absolutely have that swing to, I'm not doing that. Our inner rebel shows up, our inner desire for self-agency. Don't tell me what to do shows up. And Susan, I want to go back to what you said when you said that statement, I feel fat. And one of the things that I do is I write poetry about our relationship with our body and our food. And I've been doing this for several years. And one of the very first poems that I wrote was called I Feel Fat. And I'm wondering if I can share it with you.
Sure. Oh, I'd love that.
Okay, it speaks to what's underneath that. What's the code that when we say I feel fat, what actually do we mean? Because fat becomes this sort of slur and sort of painful placeholder. So this
Yeah.
poem is called I Feel Fat. Sitting in my therapist's too soft sofa, I'd exclaim with deep despair, I feel fat. And patiently, week after week, she said, if you weren't feeling fat, what would you be feeling? It took me months to understand the question. What do you mean if I wasn't feeling fat? I do feel fat. I feel unacceptable. I should do something about the number on the scale. I should fix my non-perfect body. No, really, this is all about my size. I believed it until I didn't, until the cultural brainwashing started to thaw. Fat is not a feeling. Fat is a size, it's a descriptor. Feeling fat is a placeholder. It's a placeholder for so many feelings that don't have words, feelings that don't have permission to be felt, feelings that don't know how to go out. So they turn back on me and attack my self-worth. I decoded feeling fat. It means I feel sad, mad, disappointed, angry, overwhelmed, confused, uncomfortable, jealous, and every other feeling. And sometimes it was easier to feel fat. It's familiar, it's the known pain instead of the terror of the deeper feeling underneath the fat. But here's the secret, that deeper feeling has wisdom. It doesn't tear you to shreds, it doesn't disown your body, it invites you home. It invites you to your knowing, to your innate wisdom. So, my question to you is, if you weren't feeling fat, what would you be feeling?
Very good. I like that. I like that a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah,
And so
definitely.
many people get caught in that, oh gosh, I feel fat. Let's unpack that. What does that actually mean? Is it I'm
Mm-hmm.
unlovable, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've lost my partner, I've divorced my partner, or I'm moving on to another partner. I'm trying to find another partner, and suddenly, oh my gosh, I have to get naked with somebody new. I feel fat. Well, what does that mean? It means I feel vulnerable. I feel like maybe
Yeah.
somebody won't love me or all of me. Or maybe it's hard for me to actually feel sensual because I'm so obsessed with body checking and looking at my rolls or my wrinkles or my scars, right? There's
Yeah.
so much inside I feel fat that's
Mm-hmm.
worth looking at and healing.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. And it's interesting. What comes to mind is what then is the difference if somebody says I feel fat
Mhm.
with I am fat?
It depends. It's a great question. It
Yeah.
depends if they are using fat as a slur. If they live in a large body, okay, so you're fat. Congratulations. You live in a tall body, you're tall. Congratulations. Like,
Yeah.
welcome to being in a body. They come in different sizes. That's one thing. If they say, I'm fat, like it's the worst thing in the world, okay, where did you get those messages? Who told you that being fat was an insult? Who told
Mm-hmm.
you that being in a larger body was not okay?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Who told you that your value, your self worth was the size of your body? Let's unpack that one. Let's look at that and heal that, because you don't deserve that.
Mm-hmm.
We all have value, we all have worth, and your size is not your worth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Sorry, I'm just thinking in the back of my brain, I'm thinking of how my view changed.
Mm.
Um, but but it's funny because it wasn't, I always felt fat growing up. Probably because I have three older brothers and they all told me I was fat. And my
And there
mother
it
wasn't
is.
much better about it.
Right. So if that's the message that we're always
Yeah.
getting, you're fat, you're fat, you're fat. And at that time of our culture, fat was not a descriptor, it was an insult. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, it was
if
actually
that's the
kind of both. That's the problem. It was both of those things tied up together.
right, so it was an insult and it
Mm.
was a descriptor
And
of
that's right.
I live in a large
Yeah.
body,
Yeah.
right? But they both went together. Oh, so who
Hmm.
I am is not okay,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And then we have to make that shift to, you know what? My size does not define who I am and my value and how I am in the world. And the reality is in our culture, at least the culture that I grew up in, if you lived in a large body, you were largely ignored or picked on. Those were the options, right? So
Yeah.
there's a lot of emotional healing that goes with claiming our relationship with our body, not from a place of I'm broken and I need fixing, but from a place of I want to support myself in feeling vital, in feeling
Yeah.
good about life, in
Yeah.
feeling like this is a good place to live this body.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. You know, what about, I don't know, the thing that comes to mind for me is, what about when being, I'll use the word overweight, but I'm not trying to be nasty about it, but when it actually interferes with your life.
Okay, so there's a couple of things to unpack in that question. One is the term overweight. Over what weight? Who decided? Right?
Okay. Yeah.
So it's a
Okay.
good thing just to be aware of. People say that all the time to me.
Right.
Well, I'm overweight. I'm like, who?
Yeah.
What weight? Who
Yeah.
said
Yeah.
what the
Yeah.
right weight
Yeah.
was?
Yeah.
Right? A chart that was made by an insurance company, right? That was then given to a doctor, right? That went with some scale that they gave the doctor for free. Like what? Wait, what are we looking at
Yeah.
here?
Yeah.
Right? There's so many terms around our relationship with
Yeah.
our body
No,
that are
that's true.
taken as norms that we have to go like, wait a second here. So if we're talking about what if living in a larger body feels like it gets in the way of your life? Okay, in what way? Yeah. Is it a mobility issue? Right? And there's stories, one of them from, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, Christy Harrison's anti-diet book and different places where two people walk into the doctor, a father and a daughter, and the daughter says, there's something wrong with my knee. And the doctor says, great, here's physical therapy. And the father says, there's something wrong with my knee, similar injury or issue going on. And the doctor says, you need to lose weight. So why wasn't the father given PT? Yeah. Right? So when we start looking at, is size the issue, we have to look at, honestly, lazy doctoring, which is, oh, you have a blood sugar issue, lose weight. Oh, you have back pain, lose weight. Oh, you have knee problems, lose weight. Hello. One of the questions, if somebody's listening and that's happening to them, is to say, what would you say to somebody if they said the exact same thing and they were in a smaller body than I was? Because the reality is we can do so many supportive things to our body at any size that will support our body's mobility, agility, energy levels, all these things. But when we make weight loss the goal, we lose because weight loss actually fails, right? We talked about that 95% of people go on diets, gain their weight back, if not more in 2 to 5 years, right? We know that statistic and we've all experienced it. So if we go to weight loss as the goal, we miss all the good stuff on the way, which is, how do I want to support myself? Because all we're going to do is fail. So let's succeed and saying, oh, my knee is an issue. Okay, let me go to PT. Let me do some exercises. Maybe let me try to do some, special thing, wear a brace, like do all the things, tape it up, whatever. Let's do those things that you would do if you were in a small body and you had that injury. If your blood sugar is not stable, what would you do if you had a small body? You would add more protein, add more fat, eat a little more regularly, try to balance your blood sugar, right? Let's do those things. Let's not attack the size. Let's respond to the actual issue, right? Again, size is not the issue.
Yeah.
Responding to who we are as humans is the issue.
And that, I think that's the problem. I think that's definitely the problem, is that people's, a lot of doctors in particular, but people, period, I think the majority are, they look at it and go, oh, it's your size that's causing that. It's your weight, that you're walking around with that's making your knee hurt. Or, it's like, well, great, but why wasn't it hurting, 3 years ago when I weighed the same amount? There's got to be some other,
Exactly. So I was out for dinner with a girlfriend of mine who knows exactly what I do and has been my friend for years. And she goes, but Nina, what if I want to just lose weight? And I'm like, okay, well, let's talk about this. And we were sitting at Mexican food. So there was a plate of guac and there was a plate of chips and there was a plate of salsa. And I was like, and there was an empty plate in front of me. And I was like, okay, let's put weight loss on this plate, this empty plate. You want this plate, right? But if we just go for, I want weight loss, we'll never get to that plate. So let's discuss. You want weight loss, but what's baked into weight loss? What do you want? She says, well, I want to feel better about myself. Okay, I was like, okay, what does that mean? She's like, I would just feel more confident. I was like, great. So I took the plate of guac and I put that, I just moved weight loss plate a little bit further away. And I put confidence, put the guacamole right in front of me. I was like, okay, that's what you want. You want that. And if you felt that way, then what would happen? She was like, well, I think I would actually like go to the gym more because I'd feel better about myself. I was like, great. You would be more active. I was like, great. Let's take that salsa. That's the plate. We'll put the salsa after the guac. Great. And then if you felt more confident and we're going to the gym, then how would you feel? She's like, I think I would have more energy. It's like, great. So let's take the chips and we'll put that's energy. And I was like, so do you notice where weight loss went? It went to the back. It's like not important because what we're going for is what we actually want and what's achievable, which is let's do the work of you feeling good in your body. Because when we feel good, when we have that positive relationship, compassionate, caring, supportive relationship with our body, the research shows we are more likely to engage in the activities that support a human body. Okay, great. Now I'm being more active because in all the ways the diets fail, all those long-term studies, being active wins, right? We want to move. Yeah. If you ask my mom, 91 years old, what does success look like in your body? She's like, keeping moving, right? Yeah. That's what we want. We want to keep doing stuff. So great. So now she's got that plate of salsa, right? She's like in that place of activity. Great. And now I've gotten into activity and now I feel I have more energy in my life to do life. And the weight loss, my body's going to do what it does around weight loss. There's a million things that impact our weight. Yeah. Let's let that piece take care of itself and let's focus on actually nourishing and supporting ourselves.
No, that makes a lot of sense. A lot of sense. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think a perfect example of that kind of came to mind is people who are always like, oh, I want to lose weight. I want to lose weight. And they don't get out and do anything. Right. And so they just keep fixating on, oh, I want to lose weight while they're eating the bowl of chips and the guacamole. Right.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with chips and guac and salsa. Right. But it doesn't, right. But the point is, let's get you moving towards what you actually want. And that starts with you having a relationship with your body that feels supportive versus managing and controlling.
Yeah, absolutely. And I, and identifying what it is that's behind it.
Yeah.
Oh, the kids all kidded me and all this kind of stuff when I was in grammar school or junior high or something. I mean, there's all these things that we all carry around and don't.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
Don't deal with
the pain.
Them. Yeah.
The pain of our body story needs to be heard. It lives in us, in our cells.
Yep. Interesting. Well, I think we should probably try and wrap this up so you can get on to your next appointment. And this has been great. I really appreciate your coming on and talking about this. It brings up a lot of old memories.
Yes. And this work does do that. And I have a resource for those, if you're listening to this and you feel like, good. You know what, I want to unpack this and you want to start the journey on my website at Body Peace with Nina. It's all one word, bodypeacewithnina.com.
I'll put that in the show notes as well.
Yeah, or ninamanolson.com. There's a journal. It's a practicing body peace journal, and it has 20 questions that I would ask you if you were sitting in a session with me to really start looking at what is your body story and how did this relationship with your body evolve. And there's some of my body peace poems in there as well to support the journey. So that's a really great free resource that's there.
Okay, wonderful. That's great. Definitely will we'll put that on in the show notes. One of these days I'll figure out how to put it on the video. It doesn't help for the audio, but I could put it on for the video.
Mhm.
Put it on the list.
That's right. Put it on the
Of things to
list.
get to. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So,
good.
well, Nina, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it
You're very
very
welcome. You're
much.
very
It
welcome. And what I
hits
would say
home.
to people, if they're listening and they resonate
Mm,
and they feel like, there is that painful story and there is that struggle, is it
oh
doesn't
yeah,
have to be that way. It
yeah.
doesn't have to be that way. You can change that narrative. And as we age, it's the most powerful time to go back and start healing that work so that we can do our next chapter with vitality and live in a way that feels supportive and nourishing. And my work
Mhm.
is, with women, either individually or groups. And I also do courses as well. And coming up in the
Mm.
fall is a body compassionate eating course. Um,
Ah,
so if that's of interest, be sure to get on my email list and get the journal for you.
yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. Yeah, that sounds like it could be very interesting.
Yeah.
Um, So I'm just going to wrap up here by saying that this is not to be seen as medical advice, and neither of us are medical doctors. And with that, I will look forward to talking to everybody next week.